What are the most common attribution mistakes that advertisers make, and what can they do to fix them? So, this is a continuation of a series that I'm doing on common mistakes. And you can read the blog post I wrote on attribution at johnloomer.com/attribution. Before we get to those 5 most common mistakes, a little ground rules. We got to define what attribution is. So this is essentially how Meta gives credit to an ad for a conversion. It usually happens on your website, but it doesn't have to. When it comes to attribution, it spills down from the top. If you get it wrong, it impacts your reporting, the optimization, and your targeting. It can screw everything up. And when it comes to those 5 most common mistakes, they usually fall into the categories of setup. So you set up everything wrong that leads to proper attribution. Application, so you don't know how to apply attribution in your advertising. Interpreting your results. So what does it actually mean? Is this result is valuable? Is this other result? And just a general understanding of how everything works. So critical, and it leads to lots of problems. So let's go through those 5. Some of these might be obvious. I think some of them may not be. Number 1, improper or incomplete setup of the pixel or conversions API, maybe both. So we're not even getting into the events at this point, but it's the pixel and the conversions API that pass information to Meta so that Ads Manager will know whether someone who saw or clicked on your ad actually did something that is really important. So did you get this set up properly? Did you set it up manually? Did you use a third-party tool? What did you do? Now, there was a time when just using the Meta Pixel was enough, when it was called the Facebook Pixel. But then everything that happened with iOS 14 and tracking, blocking, and privacy and everything else made the Conversions API that much more important to pass first-party data. So when it comes to Conversions API, you have the web API, and if all of your business is done online, that might be all that you need, and the offline or CRM API. So maybe someone becomes a lead, you have a salesperson who calls them, they close the deal, the purchase happens, and it didn't happen online. You need to pass that to Meta too, so that you can have that reflected potentially in your ads. And there are multiple ways to get this set up. There's not just one way, but the main thing is this provides a much fuller picture of the conversions that's happening. Number 2, not surprising, failure of standard events, custom conversions. So first of all, it's just a matter of misunderstanding their roles and unique purpose. I think it's a very high percentage of advertisers who do not understand the difference between these 3 things, who think that one can be used instead of another in all cases. But the reality is that they have 3 very unique roles. Standard events are predefined conversion types that Meta already has. So purchase, complete registration, lead, add to cart, on and on and on. If you can use a standard event, use a standard event. It defines any purchase on your website, not for a specific product necessarily, but any purchase would be an example. Now, you may have other important actions that happen on your website. That is where custom events come in, because there is no predefined bucket that makes sense. I use custom events because I think other actions are really important, like how long you spend on the website, whether you scroll down the page, whether you watch an embedded YouTube video. There is a long list of custom events that I use that I track as well. And then custom conversions. Custom conversions and custom events are not the same thing. Oh my goodness. Advertisers use these 2 terms interchangeably. Custom conversions merely provide detail regarding the events that happened. If you're running a campaign in Ads Manager, you have a results column for purchases. That's not necessarily going to be purchases of the thing that you're selling. Vast majority of those purchases probably are. But if you add a custom conversion, you can add a column that indicates it's a purchase of this specific product. So you can use custom conversions both to map towards standard events and the details of that standard event, and custom events as well. The failure of understanding the improper, incomplete setup, not setting up events for all of your important actions. And then there's over and under reporting because you set it up improperly. Maybe you have the event firing on the wrong page or during the wrong step. How many times have we seen that? It's like, oh, Meta is saying I've got all these purchases happen and it never happened. Maybe you have this set up wrong. Usually that's the case. It's not that Meta's inflating your numbers. It has something to do with the way that you set it up. So that's number 2. Number 3, inability to understand the meaning of your conversion results. So a typical advertiser will look at their results, they just look at the results column, and they take it at face value. But the reality is there are several attribution settings that contribute to those results. There's 7-day click, 1-day view by default. So anyone who clicks your ad and converts within 7 days, anyone who views your ad without clicking within 1 day are counted within those results for any of your standard events, custom conversions, any of your conversion events. But the reality is, it's not that, say, for example, 1-day view has no value. It's that you need to take those things with context. So it could be that you're selling a product that's costs a lot of money. It's a big commitment. Someone sees your ad, interested. They need to get approval. They need to think about it. They end up Googling your product and buying. Classic example of 1-day view. But it doesn't make any sense necessarily 1-day view for other types of conversions, and we'll get to that in a minute. So it's a matter of having context with understanding your results. So example here with complete registrations, we've got 131 1-day views of free registrations. These are results that I would completely discredit and ignore. 1-day click is what I would focus on in this case for complete registration. I wouldn't even look at the 7-day click. And yeah, you can look at 28-day click too, even though it's not part of your default results. And if you're selling something, absolutely use that information because Meta knows if someone clicked on your ad and converted within 28 days. Use it to your advantage. How do we get these results? You compare attribution settings. So click on that and you select all of these columns. Next, expecting Google Analytics and Ads Manager to report the same. Oh my goodness, this is the most frustrating thing. If you have a client, you're like, oh, Google Analytics is saying this, Ads Manager is saying that, Ads Manager must be wrong. No, neither one is right. Neither one is necessarily wrong. They both report differently. 7-day click, 1-day view is the default for Ads Manager. Google will not know that someone saw your ad, did not click, and then converted within a day. They may also lose track of if someone clicked your ad, even though you have the URL parameters, and they converted within 7 days or 28 days because they didn't use the original link. Or maybe they even switched devices at some point. And Meta is better able to track that. Now 5, always leaving the attribution setting at the default. What do I mean by that? So we talked about 7-day click, 1-day view being the default attribution setting. This also happens at the ad set level. You can change it. When you're in the ad set, click show more options, click edit. So when does this come up? Again, a free registration. Anything other than a purchase where it's a quick, easy decision, it's free, it's something that could even happen multiple times potentially. You don't want Ads Manager inflating your results. So one way that happens is by leaving 7-day click, 1-day view on, which makes sense for purchase, not for anything else. Change it to 1-day click, turn off the view through conversion, and not only will that impact your default reporting, it will impact the way your ads are delivered because Meta wants to get you results. Those results aren't going to happen if you turn off 1-day view. So you still may get 1-day view, but not in your default reporting. You'll need to go back and compare attribution settings again to see those other conversions that happen. So maybe down the road you say, oh, a bunch of them are still coming in at 7-day click, 28-day click, but it's not in your default reporting. So those are the 5 most common mistakes that advertisers make related to attribution. Again, check out my blog post at johnlimmer.com/attribution. Hope you enjoyed this one. Again, this is a series about mistakes that advertisers make. So we'll have another one next week too. All right, take care.